Good morning. I'm a little congested this morning, so please forgive me. Today's project is going to be making our not so Kletzenbrot, and I'll post the link to the article. And Brot means bread in German, and Kletzen, according to the article, is like a certain kind of dried pear that you get in Germany or in Europe, which I didn't have, but this calls for 150 grams of dried dates, 100 grams of dried figs, 50 grams of dried apricots, 50 grams of dried sour cherries, and 50 grams of raisins. I happen to have all of that on hand except for the sour cherries, so I substituted dried cranberries for that. And I don't have rum, and I called around to a few people. Usually my aunt is good for a nip, but she didn't have any rum, so I used some of my grain alcohol that I used for my tincture, so that was the 50 grams. And then for the hot water to soak these in, I used my my Breville multi-temperature kettle at the 170 degree setting just to get some hot water. Now over here, if you'll see, I have all of my fruits. You leave them to soak for 1 hour. You strain it, and then you leave the fruit to just kind of absorb whatever's left. The idea is that it's going to be moist but not wet like it would have been, if it had just been strained out of the water. So that's going to get folded in after everything is dry. So I'm just, oopsies, I'm going to put this to the side. What I also liked about this is you don't have to chop the fruits up first, because as you slice the bread, the fruits are going to like cut themselves, I guess. So the other step is, if you notice here, this was what I strained off after an hour, and I need to redo this until it gets to 200 grams. So I'm going to actually pour a little more water right in here, so I keep rinsing out all this goodness. I'm just going to look and see where the grams are. There it is. Okay, 200 grams is like about between 6 and 7 ounces, as I understand it. So I'm just going to look here and pour. I love these cups, except the mills are on the side, which makes it a little hard to see. Okay, so that's that. This is going to go into the bread, so I'm going to put that to the side. In here I have our only seasoning, which is 4 grams of cinnamon, 4 grams of salt, 1 gram of cloves. So that's going to go in. That's going to go in at the end. In the hopper, I have 175 grams of rye berries and 75 grams of bread flour berries. Or it's actually calling for flour, but I'm using the grains. So I don't have any more hard wheat bread flour because I used it all making sourdough last weekend. So I am putting in my soft wheat, but I'm going to throw in some of the vital wheat gluten, 2 tablespoons, because there's about 2 cups of flour in here. So I'm going to get to grinding, and then I'll meet you back after that's done. Okay, the next step is I've turned my mixer back right side up, or right side up for this purpose. And I have my scraper and my roller attached. I have my fruit water, and I have the sourdough, which I've stirred up in here. Next thing I'm going to do, we're just going to stir this together and mix it for just 1 minute, and then let it rise for an hour, and then we're going to come back and do the knead for about five minutes or so. And then it's going to rise again, and then we're going to be ready to put the fruit. Okay, so I'm leaving my mixer on the lowest setting. I'm just turning it to on. And now all I have to do, you have a nice big opening to add your flour. All I'm going to do is add my flour, and I think, you know what, I think I'm going to mix I may as well stir up. Let me just get a fork. I may as well stir this in and just mix it up a bit before we do that. Oh, and I need to add my vital wheat gluten also. So let me get my bag and a scissors. Okay, and I'm going to get my tablespoon. Okay, I think my tablespoon is a little dirty, so I'm just going to add 6 teaspoons of vital wheat gluten. Because I think I have it's 1 tablespoon per cup of flour, and I think I have a little more than 2 cups, so I think what was that, 3, 4, 5, 6. And supposedly this is going to add some magic, and I can't wait to see what happens. Plus, I think a little extra gluten is good because I'm using the soft flour, the soft wheat, instead of using a hard wheat, so it doesn't have as much protein as it should. And I'm going to put a little clip. Actually, I'm going to find a smaller one off camera. And so let's stir that in. Okay, everybody in the pool. Now it indicates that because the majority of this is rye flour, it may be more like a paste than a dough. So I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen, because as you know, I have a lot of rye flour. I think I have a 10-pound bag or so. Oh, look at that. Okay, so I'm going to time this for 1 minute. I'm just going to add the timer on my stove. And we'll let this knead. Okay. So that was 1 minute, and wow, it's changed already. So what I realized you can do is you can actually just kind of lay these, just kind of lay these down like that. Let me move that there. And then you can just put this right on top. Put this like that, and now we leave it for 1 hour. All right, it's been an hour since our first initial mix, which was really basically just stirring everything together. So let's get this set up again. I'm taking out my beater. It looks hard to tell. It's much stiffer than it was. So I think the kneading is gonna. I don't think it's going to be difficult, but it's not going to be as nice as it was before. So let me loosen this up, tighten it. Okay, so now we're set. I'm still on the lowest speed. So let's see what happens. Okay, not too bad. If you notice here, do you see how the hook it has freedom to move back and forth. So that's how you know that when it's a little bit looser, the dough isn't going to rise up and come up over the top, as can happen with the dough hooks. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set the timer for 5 minutes. I'm going to turn the speed up a little bit, and I'll be back in 5 minutes. We're about halfway through. It's about the 3-minute mark, and let me just slow this way down. You can see that it's starting to come together a little better. I had it on a higher speed, but I think the 3 o'clock setting, like we have for grinding the grain, is really working best. So it's going to go another couple of minutes, and then we'll see how it looks. So we're here for the final reveal. Let's take a look at what we have. Now this is after the 2nd hour. Let me get my little scraper. And again, if you remember this little piece here, it fits right into these grooves, so we can get every bit of goodness out of here. As you see, there's not a lot of dough, I think, because there's so much fruit. This might be like a sourdough fruitcake. All right, so let me put this to the side. Ah! That almost fell. Let me put it down on something flat. Okay, here. Oh boy. Okay, I'm going to use my hands. Sometimes it did say that it would be more like a paste, so let me get in here. Yeah, it is kind of sticky, but it smells amazing. It smells so good from that cinnamon and the cloves and a little bit of that fruit water, so you get a little bit of that fig and the apricot and all that good. Oh boy, this is not going to be fun. All right, but you have to suffer to be beautiful, and you have to suffer to eat, I suppose. All right, so I'm pressing this. Sorry for my coughing. Oh my goodness. So I'm pressing this out into a rectangle. You wouldn't really be able to roll this. So let me move you. So I'm kind of holding the dough down with one hand, and I'm pressing with the other to help me get my little rectangle shape. Sorry. Goodness gracious. Okay. Over here. Let's get it going that way. Okay, now, as I understand it, we're going to put the fruit on top. Okay, sorry, just double checking my instructions. So we're putting the fruit and the nuts. So if you remember, here's my fruit, and I did snip off all those little, if you can see there, those little tips of the figs. They have that little hard piece. Actually, I may try and distribute the figs a little bit so we're not getting all all the figs. Maybe I'll break them in half a little bit. Squish. There we go. Where's some more figs? An apricot. Some apricot. There. Any more figs? Where's all the figs? There's another one. I think there's a fig. Here's a fig, or is that a date? I can't even tell. No, I think those are dates. I think these two were dates. All right, so why not? Date night. So here we go. All right. All right. Actually, I did have 150 grams of dates, so it makes sense that I would have more dates showing than figs. I think there's a fig. I can tell by those seeds. You know, I spent a month in Australia in 2005, and at the airport, they actually took my dates. I had gotten some dates at the organic store just to kind of have for the plane, and they're so strict about not bringing any unwanted agriculture into their country that they actually took my date, and it had some bites out of it. They took it right out of my handbag. So, you know, they don't fool around. I can only imagine if I had like a little blunt on me. Not that I have ever done that, but you'd probably go straight to jail and not collect $200. All right, so that's that. That's the fruit. And next thing is, sorry, I'm just getting my sink together over here. Next thing is the walnuts that I got this morning from my aunt across the street in exchange for helping her reset her passwords. So here we go. So I'm just going to try and press all this in. I don't know what's going to happen when I try to roll this up because it's pretty thick. Ugh. All right, so let's see. I'm going to use this to help me. Alright, and this is not really coming off very easily. And I should have changed my shirt or put an apron on because I feel like everything is getting messed up. You know what? I think I'm going to put this in the fridge for a while just to kind of like stiffen it up, see if that helps. So I'll be back. Alright, so chilling it, if you can see, it didn't really firm this up very much. I think because it doesn't have any fat in it. I think if it had some butter, like when you chill cookie dough, it would have firmed up because the butter would have hardened. So what I'm doing is I have this cool, I got this as a little promo. It's like a little plastic cake cutter. It's actually made for Velveeta. But it's nice because it doesn't have the sharp edge of a knife, so you can kind of move stuff along. Let's see how this is doing. Oh god, this is a mess. All right, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wrap this up and kind of hope for the best. So let's see. Let me see if I can tuck all these guys in. They really seems to be out of proportion for the amount of fruit to dough, but maybe it's splitting. Maybe once it does that overnight rise, maybe it will be a little better. So I think I'm just going to try and like firm it up like this in the paper and before I let it do its final rise. All right, so this is going to go in the fridge now overnight. The instructions say to, I think, leave it out for 3 hours. Actually, I think I will. I'm going to leave it out for 3 hours, and then you shape it into the loaf, and then you let it go another hour and a half. But that's when I'm going to put it in for the overnight rise. So we'll check back in 3 hours. Okay, it's not quite the 3 hours yet for this, but I realized, I mean, look at that. Who wouldn't want a slice of that? So what I think I'm going to do is, because I have this on my parchment, what I'm going to do is put it in overnight. I realized that I can actually binder clip these shut a little bit to protect it a bit, and maybe just fold this over a couple of times. I'm still going to put it overnight in the fridge, but I think in the morning I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to lay this the other way, and I'm just going to bake it right on the parchment, maybe on a stone. So I think that's going to work out nicely, and by this time tomorrow I will know. Okay, I'm heating my oven to 390 degrees and I'm boiling some water to put in the pan underneath. What I decided to do was just cut this piece off because it was a little damp here from where the bread was resting on it, and I'm just going to bake it on this half. I've also snipped it with my kitchen shears, and then I've just gone in with them. I've just stabbed it down the middle here, just to, I don't know, just for some design. It feels a little hard. I was thinking about if I should have the moist side up, which was the bottom part, which was kind of, you know, getting a little damp. But we'll see what happens. This is the finished bread. It was made with mostly rye flour, and as you see here, it's really, oh my God, it weighs a ton. I don't know if you can see the layers of bread. I rolled the bread up in it, but it's a little hard to see. Anyway, and then I just pinched the ends, but you can see it leaked, if you can here, and it leaked here, so it was kind of sticky coming out of the oven. It's really like hard as a rock, and it's not that good. I think, you know, if you see here, I mean, it's kind of dry. I can't even really bend it. I wasn't impressed with it, so I may try it again when I get my the real bread flour, or the hard wheat, and not do the Vital Wheat gluten, and maybe get some fresher apricots and figs. These are some bags that I just had in my cabinet, and they're going to expire in a month, which probably means they've been in there for months. So I may try it again, and you know, then decide if I'm going to keep it or toss it.